Today we're going to be looking at the transition from ISDN to VoIP. The reason that you're likely participating in this webinar today is that you've received a letter from your existing carrier letting you know that the ISDN network is being decommissioned and you need to transition to a VoIP service. So we're going to start by providing a basic summary of what all these terms mean. Then we're going to talk about the things that you'll need to know about VoIP before you can make any decisions. We'll look at some of the criteria to keep in mind when selecting a voice solution for your business. And then we're going to look at some real life scenarios and how we managed to save some of our customers quite a lot of money. And then finally, if you have an aging phone system, you might be wondering what the best options are moving forward. So we'll go through that also. Okay, so just a quick background on voice generally. ISDN is, in simple terms, digital voice technology. It came around about 50 years ago. It was really targeted specifically at businesses. So it had features that were more advanced than just a basic analog copper service, but it does still use the copper network. Then in 1995, this was the first time that voice was transmitted over an IP or a data network. And I think it's worth just reflecting on this. VoIP certainly isn't new technology. In fact, it's been around for a long time. Then in 2009, the NBN was set up. And as part of that deal with the NBN was the decommissioning of Australia's existing copper network. So that process has already started, and in fact, many of you would have transitioned to NBN at home already. And exactly the same thing's happening with the ISDN network now. So as I mentioned, you may have received a letter from your existing carrier advising you that from September 2019, ISDN services are going to start being disconnected. This process is happening Australia-wide and it'll go through to 2022. But if you're in the Sydney and Newcastle region, you've likely already received one of these letters. So what is VoIP? I don't want to go into too much technical detail, but I just want to provide a practical explanation of what VoIP is. So in the diagram in front of you, you can see that essentially it involves many of the same components that you already have with your existing on-premise phone system. But the key is that all the voice traffic is transferred over a data network. So it's not using a direct copper line like ISDN, it's using a data network. And in this example, you can see that there are various devices, which could be a PC, it could be a handset, it could be an app on your mobile phone. And all of these connect to networking equipment, which then connects you to a voice platform in the cloud. Now, I should mention here that it doesn't have to be a cloud-based voice platform. You might have a perfectly good on-premise phone system that you want to continue using. But the key is that the voice traffic is being sent over a data network to the public voice network using a SIP carrier. And we'll go into a bit more detail about what SIP is in just a moment. So what should you be thinking about when considering VoIP? One of the most important things is, unlike ISDN, which has guaranteed controls around the quality of the voice traffic end to end, in the case of VoIP, there really is no guarantees, and therefore it's really important to understand that voice quality can be impacted when the data network is insufficient for the task. And what I mean by that is, let's say, for example, you have a slow ADSL connection. If you try to have, for example, 10 simultaneous voice conversations, it's very likely that you're going to experience voice quality problems. So one of the ways to ensure that you have good voice quality is to enable something called quality of service. So this is a technical term, but essentially what this means is that you're prioritizing voice traffic over any other type of traffic on your data network, such as email or web browsing. So this is a really important step in ensuring that voice quality is maintained. Another consideration is it your existing phone numbers. So when you go from ISDN to a VoIP service, it's important to understand that you can port or transfer your number to the new provider. So whether it's a single number or whether you've got a 100 number range, all those numbers can be transferred over. Another consideration is fax. we've actually done quite a few blogs recently on faxing and basically explaining how, at least from our perspective, faxing is very old technology, which really isn't ideal in today's business environment. But if your business needs to continue to use fax, this is also something that can be maintained either through a cloud fax provider or by using other technologies to deliver faxes to a fax machine that you might have on premise. So I've mentioned SIP a couple of times now, and just to quickly explain what SIP is, essentially VoIP and SIP can almost be used interchangeably. VoIP is basically an umbrella term for voice over IP or over a data network. And SIP is specifically the protocol that is used to transfer that voice traffic. So often you'll see these terms used interchangeably. So you'll hear terms like SIP carrier, SIP trunk. These are essentially just referring to voice over IP. And finally, another important question that we're often asked is whether transitioning away from ISDN means that you must use an NBN service. And the short answer to that is no. There are many other business-grade technologies available, not just the NBN. In fact, many of our customers are transitioning to business-grade fiber services delivered directly into their building. And that's certainly ideal for voice traffic because fiber is very fast and very reliable. When you're thinking about the right solution for your business, I think the main question here is whether voice is really critical to your operations. For some, this might sound like a crazy question, but there's a growing number of businesses that transact with their customers using other methods, such as via a web portal or email or even mobile phones, rather than landlines. So if you're a business where voice isn't really that critical and you don't have many simultaneous calls occurring, you could look at running voice over just a simple low-cost NBN data service. And you may even be prepared to have your voice and internet traffic all sharing a single low-cost data service. But I think it's fair to say that for most businesses, voice is typically critical to their operation. And if that's the case, it's important to understand that there are other options, not just NBN. So for example, business-grade fiber is an option that many businesses are adopting now. As I mentioned before, it's important to ensure that your IT provider is in the loop because your voice traffic will be transferred over your data network. So having good quality networking equipment can ensure that you set up, and setting up quality of service is really important. In terms of contracts, just pay attention to the detail in the contract, particularly around the contract length. And I say this because data and voice services are continuing to go down in cost over time. So my advice would be not to sign up for a long-term contract, such as a 4 or 5 year agreement. 3 is a typical sort of contract length. And if you can get less than that for the same price, well, that's even better. And then finally, it's important to look at the cost. And on the next couple of slides, I'm actually going to go through some real life examples of some customers that we've helped save quite a bit of money by transitioning from either PSTN or ISDN services to VoIP services. So how do you save with VoIP? It's actually the answer is that unlike ISDN services where you pay for the line rental in addition to the call costs, typically in the case of VoIP services, they include a certain number of voice channels or trunks, which include unlimited calls to local, long distance, and to mobiles, very similar to mobile plans today. So you're not paying for a rental plus call costs, you're really just paying for a sort of an all-in-one unlimited service. So looking at this first example, this was a company in the health industry working out of a single location with around 15 staff. And what we were able to do is take them from 7 PSTN lines that had a monthly rental of $245 plus a call cost on top of that, which in their case was around about $500, to a VoIP or a SIP solution, which included the ability to have 6 simultaneous calls. But as I mentioned, the call costs are included in this monthly price. They decided to implement a dedicated NBN service, which was purely for voice. So this added $150, but as you can see, they were able to almost halve their spending on voice services by transitioning to a VoIP solution. This next example was an organisation in the legal industry. Once again, they were working out of a single location, but they had about 60 staff. You can see here that they had 30 ISDN services, and this is something that we see over and over, where the ratio of services to staff is simply too high. You can see in this case that it's about 2 to 1, which is very high. And what we were able to show them is that they didn't need anywhere near this number of voice services to begin with. So you can see in the table they had 30 ISDN service plus the call costs on top. And what we were able to do is reduce that down to 16 SIP channels, which included the unlimited calls. And in their case, we implemented a business grade fiber service, which they used for both voice and also internet. So they got, in a sense, dual use from that fiber service. And then if you look at the savings, you can see that it was, once again, almost half their previous costs. And in this last example, we helped a real estate business with around 60 staff, but spread across 4 locations. So once again, you can see that they had quite a few voice services. In this case, they had 34 services. And the reason they had so many is that they were concerned about missing calls at each individual location. So to be on the safe side, they oversubscribed and therefore had too many services per location. But with VoIP, depending on what voice platform or phone system you're using, you're able to consolidate all of these SIP channels into a single company-wide voice platform. So in this example, they went from 34 ISDN and PSTN services connected to 4 separate phone systems at each location to 20 SIP services connected to a single phone system. And in their case, because they were multi-site, they already had a data network in place, so they simply use their existing data network for the voice calls. And as you can see, they were able to save a significant amount of money. The final piece that I want to touch on is the actual voice platform itself. And this is often referred to as your phone system or your PABX. So the first thing to point out here is that some phone system providers will tell you that because you need to move from ISDN to VoIP, you need a new phone system because your existing phone system doesn't support VoIP. Now, in the vast majority of cases, this is not actually correct, particularly if your system is only a few years old. But with that said, we come across plenty of organisations running systems that are 5, 6, 7 years old or even older. And in these cases, you certainly you'll certainly have a much better experience with a new voice platform. So unless you've recently invested in a new phone system, what you should consider here is a transition from your on-premise phone system to a cloud-based voice platform. And I think what we're really aiming for is an enterprise-grade platform. But ideally, you want to work with a local business that can provide a more personalised service. And a lot of the time, these don't go hand in hand. In fact, we get a lot of feedback that dealing with some of the larger carriers and their enterprise voice platforms is like pulling teeth because they can deliver the handsets to you, but they expect you to do all the work in setting them up. So that's why I think the ideal solution is a robust, scalable, and enterprise-grade platform that has all the features your organization needs, but you want a platform that's delivered by a provider that can meet with you prior to implementation to establish what your requirements are and tailor a solution to your needs. A provider that has technicians to deliver the solution, set it up, get the networking going and provide your training for your staff. And then obviously a provider that can provide the ongoing customer support that your staff really need. And Diamond's certainly an organisation that's capable of providing this ideal solution with an enterprise-grade platform, but with a personalised service. So in summary, time is very much of the essence. So depending on your situation, it can sometimes take many months for a new VoIP platform to be implemented. So it's really important that if you've received one of those letters to say that your ISDN is getting cut off, then you really need to get moving without delay and speak to a provider like Diamond who can help you navigate a path forward. And in fact, you can talk to us about a range of different cloud technologies. We actually have our own cloud platform. We call it dCloud, where we can offer computing as well as voice solutions. We can also offer direct internet services. So if you're sick of dealing with the big carriers directly, give us a call because we can assist there as well. And if your organization is looking to go in the direction of Skype for Business or Microsoft Teams, so these are Microsoft's voice platform solutions, we can certainly assist there as well.